Millionaire discovers unexpected joy. Maid's dance transforms his disabled daughter's life forever. Tom Harrington leaned back in his chair, the weight of his success pressing on him like the sharp corners of the polished desk. As the CEO of a thriving tech startup, he was supposed to feel fulfilled, but instead, he was sinking under the relentless demands of conference calls and financial analyses. The clock ticked cruelly, each chime echoing the emptiness of his life. Thoughts of his daughter, Lily, plagued him. With her rare genetic condition, she lingered in shadows, a precious but fading light in his world of corporate gloss. He hesitated, grappling with a surge of conflicting emotions. Each deal he closed meant more money, more status, but at what cost? Turning his head, he could see Lily's room, untouched and somber, a mirror to his failures as a father. Desperation clawed at him. He needed to prove that he could bring her joy. Could he purchase her happiness, or did it live in the laughter he couldn't reach? That Wednesday, in a moment of exhaustion, he found himself hiring Rosa, a maid oozing with energy, offering her a chance to help him reclaim his home from chaos. Her modest background marked her different from him, a chasm he long avoided acknowledging. It wasn't just her origins, though. It was what he could see glimmering in her eyes, as if rich in spirit where he felt bankrupt. He shook his head, ridding himself of that line of thought, yet it nagged at him, clawing at his conscience. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Over the next weeks, he stumbled upon unexpected sights. Rosa spinning gracefully in the living room as Lily, captivated and vivacious, danced with her. The laughter that filled the space was intoxicating yet radically unfamiliar. Each rhythmic movement stirred feelings he'd locked away under layers of responsibility and ambition. Paradoxically, jealousy unfurled in his gut. Wasn't it his role to bring her that joy? He felt a vicious tug-of-war gnawing inside him. Shouldn't he protect her from someone like Rosa? But the joy blossoming in Lily, the untainted smile he couldn't force, raised doubts. Could a connection with a woman from a different world truly benefit his daughter? Or was he merely allowing an outsider to disrupt the fragile order he had strived so hard to construct? Tom wrestled with turmoil as he watched the bond grow, feeling vulnerability seep through the corporate facade he'd built. As much as he tried to shield Lily from sadness, she appeared more alive than ever. His attempts to intervene only intensified the chaos. Rejection gnawed at his conscience. In his heart, he feared he was about to lose his daughter to someone who effortlessly lit up her world. As he wrestled with these spiraling thoughts, adrenaline surged through his veins. What if embracing this new joy meant severing the last tether to his carefully orchestrated life? Desperation clawed at his resolve, leaving him with one harrowing question. Would he surrender himself to vulnerability, risk everything for Lily's laughter, or fight to reclaim a normalcy that felt increasingly unattainable? The storm of uncertainty loomed, intensifying with each fleeting moment, leaving him at a precipice, unsure of what awaited him on the other side. Tom pushed himself away from the desk, the clattering of his chair against the floor echoing in the silent room. With the dim light of the setting sun filtering through the blinds, he felt the weight of the darkening sky mirror the turmoil in his heart. The laughter from the living room beckoned him, yet he hesitated, grappling with the dizzying emotions that churned within him. What was it about Rosa's presence that disrupted the carefully managed cadence of his life? The ease with which she connected with Lily didn't just spark jealousy, it ignited a deeper concern. She was a reminder of everything he had avoided: genuine connection, vulnerability, feelings he'd buried under layers of profit margins and quarterly reports. He trekked cautiously toward the living room, where Lily and Rosa were entwined in a dance that transformed the mundane space into a vibrant realm of joy. He watched as his daughter twirled, her laughter pealing like the sweetest chime, unhindered by the limitations of her condition. And yet the sight felt like an embrace and a slap in equal measure. "Daddy!" Lily's trajectory shifted with sharp clarity, and the dance faltered as she turned toward him, eyes wide with excitement. In that moment, the joy spilled over, and Tom felt the sharp pang of longing mixed with fear. She wanted him to join, but it was an invitation layered in complexities. Did she truly want him, or was Rosa simply coloring the world in hues of freedom he couldn't muster? "Come dance with us." Lily beckoned, her innocence demanding surrender to the moment. But instead of a smile, his mouth twisted into a tense line as he stood rooted, caught between the impulse to protect and the desire to engage. What does it mean to be present for her? He questioned himself, grappling with the instinct to protect her from the world's harsh truths. Yet, as he watched her, he understood at a fundamental level that joy did not require the same logical frameworks he had so carefully constructed. In fact, it thrived outside of them. Just as he contemplated stepping forward, a creeping dread enveloped him. If he allowed Rosa's energy to seep into their lives, was he relinquishing control? The prospect of change felt daunting. He pondered what he knew of Rosa, her unfiltered enthusiasm, her apparent lack of fear, her ability to see beauty in moments he deemed frivolous. But why was he so adamant about measuring worth in cash and accolades? As the evening wore on, new insights swirled in his mind. He began to realize that controlling everything may not have brought the happiness he so desperately sought. But embracing uncertainty, trusting the process, could catalyze a transformation he could never orchestrate with money. He made a decision, albeit a small one. Taking a deep breath to steady the pounding in his chest, he stepped into the living room, embracing the unfamiliar chaos of joy. "All right, let us see what all this is about. Show me how to dance." Tom's heart raced as he took the risk to step onto the same floor as his daughter. The moment he reached for her hand, he felt the stirrings of connection, an unfamiliar warmth spreading through him. It was exhilarating, terrifying, but it was real. Yet even as he laughed and turned with Lily, his mind remained tangled in thought. He glimpsed fragility between joy and chaos and realized that he would have to confront deeper questions about his role in their burgeoning happiness. This small act of surrendering control cracked open the door to personal growth. As the final notes of a familiar song faded away and the laughter quieted, a new layer of uncertainty entered his heart. Would he truly turn his back on the shields he'd erected for so long, or plunge deeper into this newfound vulnerability? The air shifted as he caught Rosa's eye, her expression inviting yet inscrutable. He suddenly felt that the real storm had only just begun. What would transpire if he chose to push further into this whirlwind? The stakes were rising, and the horizon loomed teeming with both possibility and peril. Tom found himself standing amidst the remnants of laughter, the echoes still clinging to the walls as if to remind him of the chaotic beauty he had just embraced. Yet, as the warmth faded, a chilling apprehension settled in. He was not just any bystander. He was a father who felt a looming sense of inadequacy, questioning if he could truly commit to a path less charted. The dance may have begun as an act of joy, but it had unspooled threads of discomfort, revealing an intricate tapestry woven with dedication, fear, and buried aspirations. The next day was Monday, a day heralded by the hum of routine and expectation. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that it bore the weight of profound uncertainty. First thing, he made his way into the office, his sanctuary, or perhaps his prison. The ticking clock on the wall synced methodically with the rhythm of his heartbeat, each tick pushing him further into reflection, not productivity. What had he gained from this relentless pursuit of control? As he settled into his chair, the screen illuminated mundane targets and deadlines, but the numbers began to fade into white noise. Instead, images of Lily's bright face, transformed by laughter, danced in his mind. He no longer desired mere transactional success. He yearned for a life imbued with meaning, one that transcended the confines of financial statements. An email notification popped up, rousing him from reverie. It was a message from his assistant filled with projections and targets. These figures had once stirred a fire within him, yet now, they felt like shackles. Tom's fingers hovered over the keyboard, and for a fleeting moment, he considered deleting those expectations altogether. But what would that mean for his role as a provider? The question loomed: was he willing to negotiate his very identity? He turned to look out the window, seeking solace in the mundane flow of traffic outside. What if he were to begin bridging the gap between his ambitions and his newfound desire for connection? The executive ambition that always fueled late nights and early mornings now felt like a distraction that kept him from the real moments worth capturing, like dancing with Lily. Each option crystallized before him: move ahead and leave everything untouched, or pivot and embrace the messiness that came with exploring unknown territory. During lunch, Tom stepped outside for fresh air, noticing Rosa and Lily at the playground, the sunshine illuminating the scene like a warm embrace. The way they interacted pulled at something within him. Laughter. Unpretentious joy. The kind that his meticulously planned life seldom allowed. There was a spark in those fleeting encounters that hinted at a connection so vibrant it defied his desire for control. His heart raced, ignited by the possibility of joining them. How could he possibly integrate his carefully constructed life with these new feelings? Perhaps it began with small choices: conversing more openly with Lily, allowing spontaneity to seep into their evenings, or engaging Rosa without the shield of formality that he often donned. What if embracing vulnerability opened doors to deeper, more meaningful relationships? As he pondered this, a call from his colleague broke through, reminding him of an imminent project deadline. Returning to work, he felt a tug between what was expected of him and what he truly desired. The balance slipped precariously away. Could he navigate both worlds? When the afternoon wrapped up, Tom resolved to make a conscious choice. He would reach out to Rosa, extending the invitation for more family moments, desperate to intertwine their lives beyond serendipitous encounters. But as he dialed, the knot in his stomach tightened. Was he ready to confront the fear of intimacy and unpredictability? Would this act of reaching out unravel more than he anticipated? The emotion surged within him, urging him forward. With each ring, he could sense the precipice he stood on, toes dangling over the edge of what had always been safe. The moment felt charged, and as the call connected, it brought forth a different kind of storm, a possible reckoning of heart and ambition entwined in a world where he could either take flight or get lost in the tumult that awaited. What he did not realize was that with every heartbeat, he was already altering the course of his life irrevocably, walking the line between control and chaos. The question wasn't merely if he would take the leap, but what transformations awaited him on the other side. The call connected, and Tom's heart quickened. There was an intimacy in the air, unspoken yet palpable, between himself and Rosa. It felt like a gamble: make the leap or remain comfortably ensnared in the web of expectation he'd woven. "Rosa?" he ventured, biting back the urge to retreat. "Tom." "Hi." Her voice, like a hint of sunlight breaking through clouds, filled him with warmth and uncertainty. "How are you?" "Good. Busy, but good." He paused, realizing that the chit-chat felt strangely inadequate. A cascade of thoughts rushed through him: the wrong words, the weight of inadequacy, the fear of vulnerability. The stakes felt suddenly monumental. "I was wondering if you and Lily would like to join us for dinner this week?" He heard a slight catch in her breath, a silence that spoke volumes. Had she guessed his struggle? Had she felt his hesitation? "That sounds lovely," she finally said, warmth returning to her voice. "What day were you thinking?" The exchange, so deceptively simple, marked a crucial juncture in Tom's personal journey. Making that leap had felt daunting, but now, looking ahead at his calendar, he also felt a flicker of excitement. It was a promise, a commitment to embrace connection over mere duty. Yet, a gnawing concern remained he couldn't ignore. How would he balance this expanding reality against the expectations of his job? Days passed, and the promise of that dinner loomed larger in Tom's mind. He dove into projects at work with a renewed vigor, yet underneath the surface, anxiety festered. The juxtaposition of his desire for authenticity against the rigid structures he had built around his professional role created tension. Would his colleagues understand this softer side of him? The approach of the dinner prompted him to rethink every interaction. As anticipation built, he began to plan. What would he say? How could he open up to Rosa in a way that didn't expose too much? The evening arrived. The table was set, but he felt his heart thrum erratically, each beat echoing his apprehension. When Rosa and Lily walked through the door, laughter trailed behind them, a vibrant thread in the tapestry of the evening. Lily raced toward Tom, and for a fleeting moment, he forgot everything: the deadlines, the expectations, the incredibly complicated emotions swirling in his heart. "Daddy!" she beamed, throwing her arms around him. That small act of love uncoiled tension that had knotted his insides for days. As the evening unfolded, Tom found himself slowly unwinding. They shared stories, laughter filling the quiet spaces, painting over the silent anxieties he harbored. While Rosa adeptly maneuvered through the culinary questions he had conjured in his head, there was also an unmistakable familiarity in her presence, one that began to dissolve the layers of formality he wore like armor. But beneath the lightness of the night, shadows danced at the edges of his consciousness. The specter of his workplace, a world that demanded results, precision, and an unyielding pursuit of success, loomed large. What would happen if he couldn't perform at the level expected of him? What if this new connection with Rosa altered the way his peers perceived him? As dessert was served, a moment of stillness fell over the room. In that quiet, Tom could sense the potential seismic shift in his life. This dinner wasn't just a gathering, it was a crucible where he could forge something new: relationships built on authenticity rather than expectation. But the path ahead was still fraught with uncertainty. "Tom?" Rosa's voice drew him back. "What's on your mind?" Exposed, he momentarily battled hesitation. Could he truly share this tangled web of ambition and fear? In that charged moment, he understood that opening up meant not just risking vulnerability, but perhaps lighting the spark for transformation within himself and within his family. The moment demanded honesty, and as he opened his mouth to respond, he felt the gravity of his impending confession. Would this reveal propel him forward, or would it unravel everything he thought he knew? The pressure thickened around him, and against the backdrop of laughter and light, the choice hung heavy in the air. He could feel it building to a critical point, a confrontation between who he had been and who he could become. The truth lay tantalizingly within reach, and as Tom began to speak, he understood that this was just the beginning. What awaited him on the other side of that revelation could reshape everything he believed about success, family, and ultimately himself. Tom's heart beat rapidly as he weighed the words he wanted to share, the ones that threatened to unravel the facade he had carefully maintained. "I've felt really disconnected lately," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. The admission hung in the air, an unguarded truth that left him feeling exposed, trembling on the precipice of change. Rosa's gaze shifted, more serious now. "Disconnected? How do you mean?" He struggled to gather his thoughts amidst the swirl of his emotions. The elegant glow of candlelight reflected in her eyes, it was encouraging yet unnerving. "Work has become this weight," he confessed, glancing at Lily, who was obliviously coloring in a sketchbook at the table. "I chase targets like a dog chasing its tail, and I hardly see the point anymore. I worry more about what others think than how I feel." Rosa nodded, her expression gentle yet probing. "What do you want, Tom?" The question pierced him. What did he want? The sobering realization that he hadn't entertained that thought in ages struck him with the force of a revelation. He had chased promotions, accolades, and the momentary nod of approval from superiors, but had forgotten to check in with himself. "I want to be present," he managed to articulate, struck by the clarity. "With you, and especially with Lily. I don't want to miss moments with her, only to realize too late that I was too busy trying to craft an image at work." The room fell into a comforting silence momentarily, punctuated only by the low sound of Lily flipping pages in her sketchbook. Sensing a shift in the atmosphere, Tom pressed on, feeling emboldened. "I feel like I'm constantly battling the image of success, but it's just a mask. It's suffocating, and I have to wonder if it's really worth what I'm giving up." Rosa leaned in, her voice measured and sympathetic. "You're not alone in that struggle. Many of us define ourselves by our careers or our achievements. But when do we ever ask ourselves if we're truly happy? Was happiness truly a choice he hadn't allowed himself to make?" He could feel that question prying at the foundations of his thoughts, and for the first time, He considered life beyond the rigid confines of expectation. They spoke for what felt like hours, highlighting the joys of sincere connections over the hollow triumphs at work. Tom sensed the gears inside him shifting with each shared thought, each honest exchange. If the corporate ladder defined one path, the road toward authenticity felt far more inviting. It was a path leading toward a richer relationship with Rosa and a deeper bond with Lily. When the evening concluded, and they stood at the door watching Rosa and Lily leave, Tom felt a sense of renewal wash over him. The evening had transformed his perspective, igniting a desire to explore a new approach to success, one that might align more with his values than the rigid definitions imposed by the world around him. That night, as he lay in bed, Tom wrestled with the realization that he had the power to redefine success. His heart swelled with hope, yet the specter of judgment from colleagues loomed large in the recesses of his mind. Could he forge a new identity that embraced vulnerability without losing the respect he had earned at work? Just as he began to drift into sleep, a thought crystallized. He needed to speak with his boss about recalibrating his workload. The fear of confrontation turned into determination. Could he find the courage to demand a work-life balance that felt genuine? The weight of that decision pressed down on him, a reminder of the stakes involved. Everything had changed, yet the journey had just begun. As he closed his eyes, a pulse of anticipation coursed through him. What awaited him as he prepared to face his work-life imbalance? Would he find the fortitude to stake his claim in redefining what success meant for him? Or would he retreat back into the comfort of expectation? Morning light streamed through the window, illuminating the disarray of clothes and papers strewn across his bedroom. Tom stirred awake, remnants of yesterday's revelations fresh in his mind, a potent mix of anxiety and determination. He could no longer ignore the gnawing apprehension about the discussions he needed to have. The stakes were too high, and the decision's gravity crystallized with every passing moment. He sat on the edge of the bed, legs dangling like question marks, and recalled Rosa's words, "When do we ever ask ourselves if we're truly happy?" The weight of expectation felt heavy, but beneath it lay a flicker of hope, an ember waiting to be fanned into flame. While his morning coffee brewed, Tom grappled with a nervous energy that surged through him. Each sip tasted like a promise, invigorating yet intimidating. He could feel a stirring within, an instinct urging him forward, imploring him to act. Today would be the day. At work, the atmosphere buzzed with the usual chaos, but his focus was sharpened. With each step toward his office, he rehearsed what he intended to say. His boss, Mr. Jensen, was a formidable figure in the industry, demanding yet intimidatingly charismatic. Transforming the dynamics of their professional relationship felt both exhilarating and daunting. Tom's pulse quickened as he approached the glass-walled office where Mr. Jensen sat, radiating authority, exuding confidence with every keystroke. It struck Tom that he had never seen beyond the mask of success Mr. Jensen wore. Would this man value honesty over performance? Would he dismiss Tom's concerns as frivolous? Summoning every shred of courage, Tom rapped lightly on the door, the sound resonating like thunder through the tense air. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" he asked, voice steadier than he felt. "Of course, Tom. What's on your mind?" Mr. Jensen leaned back in his chair, his brows slightly furrowing. The casualness belied a tension that Tom could sense across the room. He hesitated, searching for the right words, an internal war raging between his instinct to comply with the corporate norms and his desire for authenticity. "I think we need to talk about my workload and priorities," he began, heart racing. "It's becoming increasingly difficult to manage my time effectively." As he laid out his concerns, weighing the value of productivity against the toll of exhaustion, he noted the subtle shift in Mr. Jensen's demeanor. The man's expression hardened, and the corners of his mouth tightened visibly. Tom tread carefully, detailing how the pressure affected his mental health and, in turn, his performance. "I find myself constantly chasing targets that feel increasingly meaningless." Mr. Jensen's brow furrowed. "And you think you can perform at your best while reducing your tasks? You're not the only one under pressure, Tom." The room thickened with silence. Tom recognized that neither he nor Mr. Jensen had ever been fully candid, with their emotions reinforced by a facade of professionalism. It was a risk, but he pressed on, now directly addressing the underlying issue. I'm aware of the pressures, but perhaps it's time we reassess what success looks like within our team. I'm not alone in feeling like we're burning out. A flicker of realization passed through Mr. Jensen's eyes. The tension held for a moment before he finally spoke, his voice lower, almost contemplative. You're saying you value a more balanced approach? Tom nodded, heart pounding. Yes, and it could foster not only my well-being but possibly improve productivity in the long run. If the team felt supported, everyone could thrive better. After another stretched silence, Mr. Jensen leaned forward, a subtle change in posture signaling open-mindedness. Interesting perspective. Let us see how we can make that work. Tom felt relief wash over him, but doubts crept in. Was this the shift he needed? Or a temporary concession? As their discussion turned toward practical adjustments, a sense of empowerment emerged within him, illuminating what was possible if he fully acknowledged his own needs. Leaving the office, Tom's heart raced not out of fear but exhilaration. He had taken a step toward reshaping his career by embracing vulnerability, breaking free from the facade of success he had clung to for too long. Still, questions lingered. Would this newfound openness lead to lasting change or danger of intolerance from the very colleagues he had strived to impress? As he exited the building, a glimmer of uncertainty loomed. How would he navigate this new territory of honesty in a world that valued appearances so desperately? All he knew was that the journey ahead held promise, a realization that perhaps true success was found in balance, not just accolades. What other truths lurked in the shadows, waiting for Tom to confront, and how would those revelations shape his future? The sun had long passed its zenith by the time Tom returned home, its fading light reminding him of the actionable moments of the day. He dropped his bag by the door and sighed, the events of the day swirling in his mind like leaves caught in a gust of wind. With every beat of his heart, fresh determination mingled with insecurity, an internal dialogue echoing fragments of his conversation with Mr. Jensen. As he settled into the worn fabric of his couch, he hardly noticed the quiet of his apartment enveloping him. The walls felt less like a sanctuary and more like a reminder of his solitude filled with questions, ambitions stifled by the corporate grind. Yet there was a spark now, one that had been fanned into life through that singular moment of honesty at work. He would not let it dim. Tom switched on his laptop, heart racing at the thought that he might be writing an email, drafting another proposal, or even planning his next strategic move. But instead, he found himself navigating the settings of an old online course he had signed up for months ago, entitled Finding Your Authentic Self in the Workplace. As the first video began to play, an unexpected wave of nostalgia washed over him. The speaker, a woman with bright eyes and an infectious smile, urged her audience to embrace their vulnerabilities. Every moment of uncertainty is an opportunity, she declared, and Tom felt the words sink in deeper than he expected. His fingers hovered over the keyboard as he contemplated what had just transpired at work. What had felt like a risk just hours before now seemed less daunting. He knew he had to dive deeper into his reflections, to explore the why of his choices. This initiated a flurry of questions that surged forward. Did he truly want to remain in the same role if it meant stifling his unique voice? After all, success was moving to the brink of burnout. What did success mean to him, beyond promotions and accolades? The course prompted him to complete a self-assessment exercise. Each question demanded introspection, stripping away pretenses, forcing Tom to confront his desire for affirmation versus his genuine aspirations. He hesitated over the question, asking for a moment of courage he'd witnessed or experienced recently. Now, Tom could clearly see that courageous mirrored the reflection of a man he wanted to be. Not merely a cog in a large machine, but a proactive leader pushing boundaries not just for himself but for his fellow colleagues. After some time, Tom leaned back, feeling invigorated but aware he was on the precipice of significant change. It was a daunting prospect, knowing he needed to take his newfound clarity and translate it into action. But every fiber in his being urged him to go further. He would need to engage more openly with his colleagues, to foster a culture of dialogue that transcended the company's traditional barriers. Could he initiate smaller discussions, localized gatherings that encourage team members to share their feelings on workload and balance? What if they together could present a unified front to Mr. Jensen, illustrating the stark truth behind productivity claims versus actual well-being? As the distance between him and the corporate machine decreased, Tom felt a shift within himself. The anxiety that had paralyzed him for years was morphing into a resilient determination. Each heartbeat thrummed with the rhythm of newfound purpose, each breath a step towards liberation from the pressure that had shrouded him. He saved the document containing his reflections and decided it was time to act. The short term was planning and initiating those conversations, but ultimately, this journey would lead him beyond four walls. Just then, an unexpected notification pinged on his computer. An invitation, a networking event designed to bring together the brightest minds in the industry. The speaker included Mr. Jensen. The irony was hard to ignore. Tom felt an intense rush of adrenaline yet gnawing uncertainty. Would this be an opportunity to bond, or merely another stage for facades? Gathering his thoughts, heart racing, Tom realized he had to attend an ally in disguise, ready to confront the misconceived notion of success head-on. What fresh truths would emerge there, and how would his confrontation reshape the professional landscape he was navigating? Tom awoke earlier than usual the next morning, a sense of urgency thrumming in his veins. The networking event loomed like a mountain before him, its peak shrouded in uncertainty. He groped for clarity amid the fog of apprehension. Today wasn't just another day. It marked the beginning of a new social dynamic, a chance to humanize corporate interactions. After a hasty breakfast, he rifled through his wardrobe, wanting to project an image of confidence, but still feeling the weight of personal authenticity. Choosing a blazer he had not worn in months, he looked in the mirror and frowned. Was he dressing to fit in or to stand out? This choice stirred the growing awareness within him. It needed to represent the man he aspired to be, radiating both professionalism and a hint of the vulnerability he now embraced. On the train, he replayed his thoughts, examining a mental outline for how he might approach various colleagues throughout the day. Perhaps he could start a conversation about their workload, how it felt to manage stress under tight deadlines. Who would be receptive? This was fraught with risk, but thrillingly it felt like an extraction from monotony, an ascent into something far more profound. The cavernous conference hall buzzed by the time he arrived. Voices swirled around him, but he felt strangely detached from the crowd, like an outsider peering into a touching scene instead of participating in it. He spotted Mr. Jensen across the room, surrounded by a throng of admirers. The executive's confident demeanor exuded power, but Tom sensed a deep-seated tension beneath the surface facade. The man was an embodiment of the very shadows Tom had begun to resent. As he navigated through the throng, his eyes landed on Clara, a colleague who had once expressed her dreams of taking on leadership roles but had since retreated into silence, more comfortable conforming to a predefined path. A part of Tom ached for her potential, stifled like his had been for too long. "Clara!" he called out, his voice steady despite the flutter in his chest. She turned, her surprise melting into a tentative smile. A rare spark ignited in him, an opportunity to engage, to encourage. "How's the project going?" he asked, genuinely interested. The ensuing discussion about her experiences revealed layers of frustration intertwined with hope, and eyes that had begun to sparkle with possibility. The conversation unfolded like a fragile flower blooming in harsh soil. With each word exchanged, Tom's own confidence burgeoned. They spoke of aspirations and life outside of work, shared struggles, ambitions, and the unseen barriers of the corporate world. In that moment, he realized that opening this channel, this collaborative dialogue, was more vital than any networking strategy he had devised. Emboldened by Clara's reaction, Tom decided to extend his efforts. He sought out others from different departments, engaging them in casual conversations that broke the divide. He challenged himself to steer dialogue onto the uncharted waters of emotional well-being, prompting reflections on their experiences within the corporate framework. It was exhilarating, it felt vital. The highlight came when he managed to corner Mr. Jensen as the session concluded. Nervousness twisted in his gut, an undeniable surge of emotions wrestling his desire for fortitude. Before thoughts could spiral into self-doubt, he introduced himself, his voice surprisingly steady. "Mr. Jensen, I'd like to discuss how we can support our teams more effectively." As Jensen's gaze locked onto his, Tom realized this confrontation would not just test his aspirations but also reshape his entire approach to workplace dynamics. Would he receive the affirmation he craved, or would he confront the indifference of corporate hierarchy head-on? With that final thought, the tension solidified within him. Whatever the outcome, this was the moment he had chosen to seize, a crucible where identities might shift and expectations be rewritten. The stakes were rising. How far would he be willing to go to challenge the status quo? Tom stood before Mr. Jensen, the moment stretching unnaturally, as if time had paused to gleefully watch his uncertainty. The executive's brow furrowed slightly, his posture radiating power, yet Tom sensed a hidden curiosity. The silence hung between them, thick and palpable. This was not just a passage of words. It was an encounter that could redefine his professional trajectory. "Let's chat," Jensen finally said, gesturing toward a quieter corner, nudging Tom further into a setting where pretense might dissolve. As they settled, Tom could feel the stakes elevating. "I appreciate you taking a moment." His voice faltered only slightly, revealing more sincerity than bravado. "I want to discuss our teams, how we can create an environment where openness about challenges is encouraged." Jensen's eyebrows raised, a flicker of genuine interest lighting up his expression. "You think that's what we need?" Tom launched into a summary of his conversations so far, highlighting the hesitance among staff to share their struggles, the silence that ensued amidst pressure cooker deadlines. He advocated for initiatives around mental health and a platform for dialogue. As he spoke, Tom realized the profoundness of connecting emotionally and how it mirrored Clara's awakening that morning. "Interesting perspective, Tom." Jensen leaned back, folding his arms, an indication that he was considering more than just the words. "But that's not just a goal, it requires a culture shift." "Exactly," Tom replied, emboldened, a sense of urgency fueling his voice. "We can't just brush these issues under the rug. It impacts performance, morale, everything." He owed it to himself, to everyone like him and Clara, to insist on this dialogue. Jensen considered this, the internal battle visibly playing out on his face. "What do you suggest we do?" Tom felt the tension in the air thicken. This was a make-or-break moment. He resisted the instinct to retreat into cautiousness, summoning every ounce of conviction he had recently discovered. "I think we should pilot a program workshops that focus on emotional intelligence, resilience training. We need to normalize these discussions." The executive paused, weighing the proposal's merit. "You realize that's a significant commitment? Could be met with resistance." Tom's heart raced, but he pressed on, unwavering. "Maybe. But if we want to elevate leadership and flexibility in our teams, we must face that resistance head-on. Change doesn't come easy. Isn't that why we're in our positions to be catalysts for growth and development?" For a long moment, Jensen sat in silence, studying Tom intently. The atmosphere shifted as the executive leaned in, his fingers steepled, a glimmer of what could only be interpreted as newfound respect in his eyes. "You're onto something, Tom. Let's explore it further." Relief and exhilaration coursed through Tom as they exchanged thoughts, drafting a potential framework for the program. With each sentence, he shed remnants of self-doubt and clung to a burgeoning sense of agency. As the conversation shifted toward logistics, Tom sensed deeper lessons emerging, how unhesitatingly confronting hierarchy began to dismantle a lifetime of self-imposed limitations. He was actively reshaping his destiny, challenging what had long felt immovable. After their meeting, Tom sought out Clara again, eager to share the outcome. He wanted her to feel the liberating pulse of collaboration, the promise of a workplace where aspiration lived free from fear. "Clara, guess what? I spoke with Mr. Jensen," and he began, but as he glanced around the bustling workspace, he noticed others were absorbing the energy of their discussions, the momentum building. It sparked something within him, the realization that if he could ignite this shift, perhaps he could guide others like Clara towards their own illumination. At that moment, he spotted a familiar figure near the entrance, Jenna from HR, a thorn in his side over the last few quarters. He felt a jolt of anxiety. She had voiced strong opposition to change within their department, and what she might think of his new initiatives weighed heavily on his thoughts. Would she dampen his progress, or could he find a way to bring her on board? He inhaled, ready to confront his next challenge. The stakes were higher than ever, and Tom was determined to navigate through not just the company's intricacies but within himself. The journey was just beginning. Days passed with a palpable excitement in the air, as Tom navigated the new landscape within his company that he had helped cultivate. Establishing workshops focused on emotional intelligence and resilience was just the beginning, but now, it felt as though he was on the cusp of something even greater. Each conversation with colleagues not only cultivated deeper connections but began to shift the culture around him. The energy was electric. Tom walked through the halls with renewed purpose, an invigorating sense of belonging unfurling within him. Instead of rushing from meeting to meeting, he now took the time to check in with team members, to ask them about their dreams, not just their deadlines. The attention to well-being was an energy that resonated, drawing people to him. Yet doubt lingered in the shadows. After all, change didn't just happen overnight, and while Tom was buoyed by this new sense of self, he still faced challenges that seemed insurmountable. "Tom!" Clara greeted him one morning, her eyes alight with urgency. "I heard you're leading that workshop next week. I can't wait." The mere mention of the upcoming event sent a thrill through him. He felt like a conductor, orchestrating collaboration instead of competition. "Yes, but I really need you there," he admitted. "We need voices like yours. You've always had great insights on these topics." "Really? You think I can contribute?" Her surprise was palpable, revealing the layers of self-doubt that she too had been unearthing. "Absolutely," he responded, feeling the weight of responsibility to uplift her. "Your perspective can inspire others." She smiled tentatively, and the bond they had forged began to take root, growing stronger every time they uplifted each other. As the workshop day approached, Tom experienced an array of emotions: excitement, trepidation, and a determination that outweighed them both. Would the message resonate? Would the team embrace the shift as he had envisioned? This was not merely an event, it was a turning point. The workshop arrived, and the conference room buzzed with a blend of anticipation and skepticism. Colleagues trickled in, some curious, others wary. Mr. Jensen sat at the back, an imposing figure, but Tom steadied himself. This was his moment, his opportunity to present a new vision for success. "Thank you all for being here," he began, channeling a voice that reverberated commitment. He felt the eyes on him searching, questioning, but today, he was ready. "What we're going to discuss is not just about performance metrics. It's about sustaining ourselves as individuals within this ecosystem." As Tom laid out his approach, highlighting the importance of mental well-being and enhancing productivity, he noticed the tension in the room shift. Clara chimed in with her experiences, sharing how creating a supportive workplace fostered innovation rather than hindered it. The dialogue transitioned from formal presentations to heartfelt discussions. Colleagues began to share, and as they unfurled their stories, vulnerability became the foundation of their collective growth. Tom watched with pride as the atmosphere transformed around him, no longer rigid but fluid, like a dance guided by trust and respect. The initial skepticism cracked to reveal enthusiasm, and what began as mere curiosity blossomed into genuine engagement. As the workshop concluded, Tom felt a wave of fulfillment wash over him. He had not only led a successful session but had taken on a role he never imagined he could embody, one of a true leader who inspired change through compassion. The accolades and reminders of traditional measures of success began to melt away, replaced by deeper connections that enriched everyone involved. Afterward, as he stood near the exit, an unexpected voice broke his reverie. "You did a great job today, Tom." Mr. Jensen approached, an unusual softness in his demeanor. "This was what we needed. If we're going to adapt to an ever-changing market, we need to prioritize our people." Tom's heart raced. "Thank you, sir. It's about engagement and well-being. I believe the results will follow." The realization that he could inspire transformation at this level ignited a sense of confidence within him. In the following weeks, Tom witnessed the fruits of their efforts. Productivity soared, but more impressively, the team thrived as they leaned on one another for support. The whispers of change echoed throughout the building, the once guarded personas gradually shedding their skins of rigidity. Standing at the office window one afternoon, reflecting upon the tumultuous journey, Tom felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had navigated the waters between identity and ambition, emerging stronger. Yet, this was about more than himself. It had become a collective awakening, empowered not just through responsibility but through heartfelt connection. He had achieved not just professional recognition but the ability to reshape the very core of his workplace. As he prepared to face new challenges, there was a solid confidence in him, a professional transformation that had been years in the making. Tom's trajectory had shifted, and he felt poised on the brink of further evolution. What lay ahead was not only an exploration of continued professional development, but an authentic life balance between aspiration and genuine connection. This was his moment. It was time to share his story. Attention to the struggles that laid the foundations for triumph, the importance of nurturing a culture of empathy and understanding. With this clarity, he realized not only had he embraced vulnerability, but he was now equipped to guide others toward their own journeys of resilience. And just like that, a new chapter beckoned, waiting for him to conquer it. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it really helps. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.